Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the biggest crisis in the modern life. In the modern life, in the next 20 years, the biggest crisis that is sweeping across society is the crisis of attention. We're in an attention crisis. I really think that there has been no other time in the world where the most precious resource that we have is literally being taken away from us in every moment. Hi, I am Han Marco. This is the Tender Core Experience, and I am your human connection consultant, specializing in all things intimacy, baby. Into me you see. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So let me start off by talking about why it is that attention is important for us as humans. And so attention can also just be acknowledged as our awareness. And I'm sure many of us have heard of the term where your attention goes, energy flows. And so without attention, we have no awareness. And without awareness, we are unable to actually know what it is that we want. Without awareness, it's very challenging to know who we are. Without our attention span actually on something, it is impossible to have presence. And presence is the thing that makes us feel alive. It's what allows us to experience the world. When we are in our thinking mind, we are not necessarily experiencing something. We are in the cognition of thought. And experiencing things, it comes from a feeling. Being present with something, it really captivates more of our attention and more of our senses than simply thinking about it. And so without attention, we do not have presence. And without presence, we can't know ourselves, because we haven't given ourselves the presence to be able to listen to who we authentically are. So the modern day crisis of attention is far more scary than what we even know to believe. It is not just the common fact now of the fact that people are just on their phones, but that we have replaced connection with stimulation. And the more that we've created more and more stimulation, the more stimulation we need to be able to feel something. And so instead of being able to feel what is around us and tap into what we are truly desiring, we are continuing to outsource instead of insource what it is that we need, or what it is that we think that we need. And so when we don't have attention or awareness on who we are and what is happening internally, not just cognitively, but inside of our full body, we are unable to be able to listen to the constant messaging that is going on inside. And this constant messaging are the human needs that we all have. So some examples of these needs are, when you're hungry, your body sends a signal from your stomach to your mind to say, hey, we're hungry. Okay, the same thing happens when you're thirsty. Same thing happens when you're cold. You listen to the signal and you do the thing. Now, there are a vast amount of human needs that we have, but in their simplicity, as well as these physical needs that we need to survive, as well as shelter, our human needs are also for connection and for closeness and for intimacy and for touch and for self-expression and for play and belonging. These are all deeper core human needs that make us and wire us to feel whole. And so when we have no attention on those needs, it becomes very challenging to be able to give ourselves what it is that we do need. And so what's happening a lot of the time is that these messages are still kind of coming up, but we have created modern strategies for how to fulfill those needs. And by fulfill, I mean kind of just band-aid them, or at least fix them for the moment. And this is sort of, if you look at my previous videos, we can discuss this as sort of these candy pleasures versus these feast pleasures. So choosing the quick, hard fix of stimulation that's going to soothe in the moment versus the thing that might be a little bit harder to get to, but that soothes us in a more sustainable way. So this is, junk food versus something healthy and organic. This is the modern strategy of, I feel lonely, so I'll get on the app and hit the dopamine of trying to feel connected that way versus, reaching out to a friend and having a vulnerable conversation or asking them if they want to go do something. Everything has become so attainable, and this concept of instant gratification has made us really, I guess, lazy, but I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean it in a way where it's become very easy to scratch the itch that is uncomfortable. And then we kind of get caught in this loop of habits that relieve this these different struggles that we feel. When we feel lonely, and so we get on a Netflix binge, or we feel isolated, and so we go online and shop, and there are all of these different kind of signals that are coming up every single day, but that we are not truly able to gift ourselves the attention, the time, the presence to be able to truly listen. And so our attention, reclaiming our attention and simply sitting with ourselves and the power and the potency of our inner reflection and getting to know our inner landscape to deepen our awareness is going to literally change everything about us if we can have the courage to do that. And I say courage because it is going to be a little bit difficult. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, because the reason that we don't want to fully shine the light on ourselves is because sometimes there are difficult things to look at. There are sore things to look at. There are things that we don't want to look at that are hiding in the cobwebs of the corner of our psyche. And the more that we look away from those things, the more that they're going to have a power over us in the back seat. And you may already know some of these concepts around, the iceberg metaphor, where we have the iceberg that you can see just the tip on the top of the water, but then below is 95% of the actual iceberg, which you can't see. And so this imagery is referring to the 5% of the conscious mind, as in our logical thinking and our day-to-day actions and logistics. And then 95% of what we do and how we're driven is actually our subconscious. Okay, so it's the part that doesn't live in our awareness. But what we can do when we start to actually take control of our attention, which, by the way, is actually you just claiming your authority, your inner authority, author, becoming the author of your own life, the creator of your own life, instead of allowing the outside world to take control of you. This is when it can all truly shift. And instead of that, that 95% just being this whole other space where you just feel completely out of control with and taken back by when things go wrong and get fucked up, we can actually start to shift and change and rewire these parts so that we can bring deeper attention into our awareness, so that we can feel like we have a bit more control over our lives. And so sometimes when you are not listening to the signals will start kind of knocking on the door louder and louder and louder and louder. And if you keep ignoring them and putting it off, then life is really going to double down on you and make you listen. It's going to come in sometimes like a semi-trailer truck and just smack you. Hopefully not that example specifically, but it's going to come in with a health crisis or with a relationship breakdown or with, the cancellation of a job. Something to wake you up, to shake you up, to scare the shit out of you because you've become too comfortable in a way where you're being pushed to wake up to a deeper version of you, another version of you. You're being pushed into to shedding and dying in some way so that you can rebirth. And so sometimes if you don't listen, the universe or whatever you believe in will make you listen. And so for me, there's been many of these make you listen moments. One that I can specifically remember, several, they've happened to me so many times. But each time, which is what is important about this, is each time these big moments happen, I strengthen my ability to have awareness of my blind spots and to listen to myself deeper, so that it doesn't have to be these huge moments that happen every time to find myself again, to put myself back on the path. There's smaller things that happen now each time. So in the beginning, it was bigger things. It was losing my job, and I remember one specific experience where I broke my leg. I broke my foot. I was in a really toxic relationship that I couldn't really get out of, and was really not listening to myself around it. And so we went partying one night, and we were at Kick-Ons, and it's a long story, it's a good story, but the point of the story is a marble sink fell on my foot and broke my foot. And that kind of burst the bubble on how I was living and what was happening. And it forced me to stop, pardon the pun, running away from myself and avoiding myself. And from that point, sent me on a whole new trajectory of needing to be with myself and heal myself and listen to myself. And so I want to discuss now what actually happens when we strengthen this awareness. Because when we strengthen this awareness, it brings us closer to the things that we want. From that point, I shifted into a completely different person and started having much more deep, successful relationships that were filled with reciprocity and vulnerability and trust in a way that I was dreaming of. And so what I want to, I guess, continue from sharing this specifically is that these moments happen to highlight the disconnection that we have from ourselves, to highlight the lack of awareness, to highlight that we haven't been paying attention on the level that we need to. And so now, for instance, after being so deep in the process of my own awareness, now I can tell when I'm disconnected from myself quite fast and be able to turn it around quite easily. And so instead of these big smack you in the face moments, I can pick up on little things that happen and then be aware straight away. And so for me, when I feel disconnected from myself or when I'm not truly paying attention, it makes it harder for me to look after myself. So, I get slacker on cleaning my teeth. I get more slack on wanting to see friends. I get more slack on sharing my honesty with people. And these are all parts that shine on me that I am disconnected. And so what I want to share about the importance of why that is important is because if we can notice when we are disconnected from ourselves sooner and sooner in these little micro moments, then we're going to be able to get ourselves back on the horse faster. Okay, so that means that we're able to, with the inner awareness and with the attention of what is going on inside of our inner landscape, we're able to know what it is that we need and what we need to give to ourselves so that we can shift and be back in connection with ourselves and have the attention back on what we need to do. And that awareness gives us that. And so I've really been sitting with in lifetime how it feels to feel disconnected from myself, how it feels to how it feels when you get sucked into the external attention. And for me, I'm really noticing that with AI, using chat, using Claude, getting really deep in there to talk about these processes that I'm having and work. And I'm really noticing how that in itself is also a form of very high stimulation, and that high stimulation then can disconnect me because it is it's addictive almost. And so I ask you, which things like AI are you using at the moment that are taking your attention, away from your inner landscape? What is the one thing specifically right now that has you really by the fucking neck? you know, because if it's your phone, which it is for a lot of us, we really need to start putting boundaries in that shit. You know, it is just going to become harder and harder. But I promise you, if you want to have intimacy in your life, if you want to feel connected and romantic with life and fulfill your potential and connect deeper with your inner genius and find your tribe and find your people and create and meet the beings that make you feel seen and loved, then boundaries on that fucking phone is what is gonna really fucking save you. And I say that because I need to do it too. We're not here to fuck spiders right now. We are moving into a point in existence where almost everything is out to get us. And I don't mean that in a cuckoo conspiracy way. I mean that in a way that we need to be staying in control of our most precious resource. Otherwise, it is just going to be taken. It's going to be taken. So boundaries are a very, very big part of what needs to happen, not just with the phone, but with the other things that are taking your attention. And this can also just be for fucking, you know, things that are ruminating in your mind. Okay? If you've got your attention on the future and the anxiety of what is to come, or your attention on the past and the guilt and the regret and the shame and the blame, okay, then you're also draining yourself of the precious resource of presence. Okay? Because presence is not the future and not the past. It's the moment. And that is where connection lives. Okay? That is where the connection lives. So these boundaries are what says, this is me and this is you. All right? And we're going to need more and more of those as everything merges more and more. Okay? Structure, routine, and spaces where we can and cannot have our phones or tech, and really putting in the work to be with ourselves outside of technology is really becoming pivotal. It's becoming pivotal. So that's my hot take. That's my hot take on the crisis of the modern day, is the attention crisis. And the antidote for the attention crisis is presence, is intimacy, is reclamation of the attention being on the external to the attention being on the internal. Getting to know, becoming romantic with your inner landscape. If you are seeking and dreaming of being seen by another, by having the attention of somebody looking at you and feeling you and thinking that you are deliciously spectacular, then put in the time to date yourself and see if you are someone that you would actually want to date. Gift yourself the reclamation of your most precious resource, the resource that is your own awareness. Your awareness of not just what is going on outside, but what are you feeling? How is your heart? What is your intuition telling you? Clearly, I'm very passionate.